The basics.
It really is.
Oh, the uppercut, and he took it! Jake Paul took it!
Down to the body with the right hand for Anthony Joshua. There's a big left now.
Yeah.
I think he went into that fight knowing that was probably going to happen.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the big win for him would be that he was even willing to do it and that he could do well for a little bit.
Yeah.
The problem is he was like a famous kid, and then no one took him seriously.
Yeah.
But
oh, and then he started too with like more spectacle-ish.
Joe Rogan just detonated a truth bomb, pulling back the curtain on Jake Paul and Logan Paul in a way that confirms what many people have whispered about for years but were afraid to say out loud. This isn't just gossip, it's about scripting fights and slowly, deliberately hollowing out everything boxing was built on. The boundary between real competition and a manufactured spectacle has thinned so much it's almost invisible, like a cracked mirror pretending to be whole. Boxing once thrived on danger, on chaos, on outcomes that could ruin careers or rewrite lives in a single round, but now it forces us to confront unsettling questions about who's really in control and whether any of it is still believable. And here's the unsettling part: if fights feel oddly predictable, if you catch yourself thinking you already know the ending before the bell rings, you're not imagining it. That sense of certainty is the warning sign, because the foundation that made boxing raw, meaningful, and real is being quietly stress-tested, bent, and pushed to its breaking point right in front of us.
I'm sorry to have to ask you this, but blink twice if that Jake Paul fight was set up.
Blink twice.
I know you probably
I
can't
don't
say
never
that.
blink because I got these liberty eyes. A lot of people wonder that, but think about this. If I say, Rampage, I'm going to pay you $2 million, right? Let this dude beat you, what you going to do?
Boxing has always survived on uncertainty, and that uncertainty isn't just part of the sport, it is the sport's DNA. From its very foundation, everything that gives boxing meaning is rooted in the idea that the moment the bell rings and fighters step into the ring, control evaporates. No amount of planning, no perfectly drilled strategy, no late-night game plan can truly dictate what happens next. Skill crashes into preparation, instinct clashes with fear, momentum flips in a heartbeat, and real physical damage stacks up second by second. These forces collide violently in ways that cannot be neatly scripted or safely predicted. And that collision, that raw, volatile chaos, is exactly what separates boxing from staged entertainment or theatrical performance. When fans tune in, they aren't just watching punches land or counting clean combinations, they are buying into danger. They are emotionally investing in the possibility that something shocking, career-altering, or life-defining could happen at any moment. That risk forms an unspoken contract between fighters and the audience, a sacred agreement that what unfolds is real, uncontrolled, and earned in blood and grit. But the moment that contract starts to crack, when doubt creeps in and people question whether what they are witnessing is genuine, the entire structure of the sport begins to tremble, as if its foundation is quietly collapsing beneath the surface.
You're going to feel disrespected, number one.
In recent years, crossover boxing has shoved that unspoken contract to the edge of collapse, and now we're watching the fallout unfold in real time. Influencers stepping into the ring brought explosive attention, staggering money, and an entirely new audience that traditional boxing had never been able to touch on its own. But along with that spotlight came something far more dangerous, and this part matters more than people want to admit. They introduced narrative control, the one thing boxing has resisted throughout its entire existence. Suddenly, fights stopped feeling like raw confrontations between two people desperate to prove who was better and started resembling episodes in a carefully engineered series. Opponents were no longer just challengers, they were profiles, handpicked to fit a storyline. Matchmaking looked selective, almost surgical, designed to guide outcomes rather than risk them. Promotional arcs felt scripted instead of earned, and whispers of controlled results crept into conversations, even if no one dared to say it outright. What once lived only in dark corners of message boards and late-night Reddit threads, conspiracy theories debated by hardcore fans at 3 a.m, began spilling into mainstream discussion on major sports networks and popular podcasts. And that shift, that quiet migration from fringe speculation to open, legitimate debate, matters for more than any single win, loss, or knockout ever could.
In the Jake fights, for me to do that, I gotta be willing to walk away for good, and it gotta set me up for a while, at least.
he has had no real professional opponents other than Tommy Fury that were legitimate world-class boxers.
Yeah.
The problem is he was like a famous kid, and then no one took him.
Joe Rogan's commentary didn't land like ordinary fight criticism, and that's exactly why it cut so deep and spread so fast. This wasn't a breakdown of technique, footwork, or lazy tactical analysis dissecting a missed jab. It went straight for the psychology of combat and the culture wrapped around it, the uneasy truths buried beneath the noise. When fighters who have actually stood in that ring, who understand what real violence feels like in their bones, calmly say something feels wrong, it hits differently. People listen harder than they ever would to a random commentator chasing hot takes. There's a gravity to words spoken by someone who knows sanctioned violence not as clickbait or flashy thumbnails, but as consequence, as moments that can permanently alter a person's life. The tone wasn't explosive outrage or reckless accusation meant to stir drama for attention. It was restrained, deliberate concern. And concern like that, quiet and measured, has a way of peeling back uncomfortable truths far more effectively than shouting ever could. The real issue here was never about whether influencer fighters train seriously or show courage, because in fairness, most of them do put in real work. The problem is what their presence may be changing underneath everything we're told is still real.
You just will never be a good fighter, so I wish that I could have knocked him out at the start, but as we saw,
Me like sparring.
yeah,
When I watched it, which, look, I paid for it. They got me. I thought it was going to be a real fight.
Effort has never been the benchmark for legitimacy in boxing, and anyone who truly understands the sport knows that at a fundamental level. The real standard, the line that has always defined what counts, is risk, the danger of standing across from someone who can genuinely take something from you once you're in that ring. That risk includes your undefeated record, your physical health, your long-term brain function, your future earning power, and even your control once fists start flying and plans fall apart. When fights are positioned as business ventures first and sporting contests second, when revenue streams and brand expansion outweigh pure competition, the audience feels that imbalance instantly, even if they can't put precise words to it. The unease doesn't come from jealousy, bitterness, or a desire to see anyone fail. It comes from pattern recognition, from watching the same formula repeat again and again until it becomes impossible to dismiss. What truly unsettled longtime observers, what made people deeply uncomfortable, was the implication that outcomes, pacing, or even perceived physical limits might be discussed behind closed doors before anyone ever steps between the ropes. That suggestion alone rattles the core of what boxing claims to be.
The Jake Paul fight didn't feel won, it felt delivered. 6 rounds like a deadline, 33 million live eyes like a quota, breathwork behind doors timed like ignition.
Boxing has always dragged corruption narratives behind it like barnacles clinging to a ship, and that reality is nothing new in this sport's long, complicated, and often ugly history. Traditionally, those stories centered on bought scorecards, shadowy promoters cutting backroom deals, or sanctioning bodies quietly taking bribes to manipulate rankings and titles. But what feels different now, what makes this era more unsettling and potentially far more dangerous, is how open the power has become and how shamelessly it's being used. When social media clout turns into real negotiating leverage, and that leverage begins shaping what happens inside the ring itself, the threat isn't just unfair matchups or one fighter getting the short end of the stick. The real threat is normalization. It's the slow process where something outrageous becomes familiar, then accepted, until it's simply how things are done. Once that shift happens, people stop questioning it, even as it quietly eats away at the sport's core principles. And that's why even silence became meaningful. Many saw Anthony Joshua's reaction, or more accurately his lack of a strong public response, as part of the story itself. He didn't need to make a statement or call anyone out. His restraint, intentional or not, added another layer to the growing sense that something fundamental was changing right in front of everyone.
Brother, you guys need to fight guys your same size. When you fought Floyd, you are massive. He did hit you with a fucking bomb, and you fucking ate it. He's gonna fight Gervonta Davis. Who do you got? Gervonta, I think, hits way harder than Floyd, but
It erodes over time, quietly and relentlessly, worn down by acceptance and resignation until no one can even remember what the sport was ever supposed to stand for. The danger isn't a single scripted fight, one questionable decision, or one performance that feels slightly off. The real existential threat is the idea that scripting could even be discussed, that it could exist in the conversation as a viable option instead of being treated as a total betrayal of everything boxing claims to represent. Joe Rogan's perspective hit so hard because he framed the issue as psychological warfare, not surface-level entertainment criticism or complaints about production polish. Fighters are conditioned from day one to break opponents mentally as much as physically, to invade their confidence, to plant doubt, to make them hesitate. The moment ambiguity is introduced behind the scenes, about rules, expectations, or hidden intentions, that entire mental ecosystem destabilizes. When a fighter believes the contest is pure, when they trust the stakes are real and uncontaminated, they commit fully with every ounce of focus, aggression, and instinct they have. But when doubt creeps in, when that quiet voice starts whispering, "Wait, is this even real?" something dangerous happens. Commitment fractures. Hesitation appears. And in boxing, hesitation isn't just a mistake, it's an opening. It's the split second where defenses drop, timing slips, and damage becomes unavoidable. That's how people get hurt, not by punches alone, but by uncertainty eating away at the very mindset that once made the fight real.